Welcome to a special edition of Hotline TV. I'm John Mercurio.
And I'm Amy Walter. Do you hear that beep, 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 beep,
I do now. I do this
oh, you
now.
didn't. It was actually playing in the background. I thought you would have known that because the big news today, we thought it was going to be swine flu.
We did.
Thought it was going to be, before that, we thought it was going to be 100 days of Obama.
100 days of coverage of Obama.
That's right.
100 days.
Oh, no. This is bigger.
Bring it.
Arlen Specter switching parties. Whoa! Thrown for a loop.
Thunderbolt going throughout the nation's capital and throughout the Keystone State.
Right. So let's focus on this. For those folks, for folks in Washington,
yes.
Surprise, not a huge shock though, right?
Not a huge shock. Certainly one of the few moderates left in the Senate, and we've been talking about him as one of the potential party switchers to bring him to 60.
Right. So let's talk instead about what does this mean for Pennsylvania politics, because there are a lot of people now whose plans are going to be upended by Specter. So let's start with this, John Mercurio.
Yes, ma'am.
Pat Toomey.
Pat
Toomey thought he was going to be the Republican nominee just a couple of minutes ago, didn't he?
And it looked very good for him. He had polls out that showed he was leading Specter in the Republican primary by I think 21 points in the latest poll, and that he would then go on to a likely defeat against a potentially weak or mediocre Democratic opponent. Everything changes though. You've got Specter as a Democrat. Toomey running on the Republican side now, I think, because he was, first of all, I think, a reluctant candidate to get in the first place.
I was just going to say, maybe he runs for governor now.
Yes,
that was what he said he wanted to do in the first place.
Although, if you listen to what he actually does say, he says that the big part of his desire to run, he's a pragmatist. He knows the politics. He knows that Pennsylvania is turning Democratic. He's likely to stay in because, frankly, his chances don't change that much. More importantly, to Toomey, he now gets a larger stage upon which to run against Specter. He'll be the Republican nominee. Specter, I think at this point, the likely Democratic nominee. And then you have this major party battle in which he gets to make his case that Republicans need to become the party of conservatives.
All right, but raising money is going to be tougher for him now than it would have been in a primary.
If you need that he was going to get rid of Specter, yeah.
All right, number two then, the other question is, what do Democrats do? Now, we know Governor Rendell, good friends with Arlen Specter.
Sure.
He's been very quiet thus far in the contest. He wrote a $500 check, which, I mean, $500, come on, Ed, I know you got more than that.
That's nothing. I gave more money to Torsella. Oh, Torselli. I gave more to Torselli.
Yeah, the torch. That's
different
after he,
thing.
it's a different
Okay.
thing. Anyway, not exactly a really, that wasn't a stamp of real endorsement for Joe Torsella.
Right.
At the same time, does he now say, I'm endorsing Arlen Specter in a Democratic primary? Does he have to do that?
Look, I think it becomes very difficult. Sure, there are a lot of Democrats who will never support Specter, but there are a lot of formerly moderate Republicans who recently became Democrats who I think have voted for Specter in the past, likely to vote for him in the future. I think it's impossible for the Democratic Party not to seriously consider endorsing Specter. As ridiculous as it might have sounded just a few weeks ago, I think at this point it's the likely scenario because, look, he is the senior statesman for the state of
but he's
Pennsylvania.
got a voting
He's
record
been in the
that
Senate
if you're
for
a
29 years.
If you're a Democrat, there are a lot of votes that he's taken that you're going to disagree with. And if you are looking at a Democratic primary electorate, I don't know how many of those people show up to vote for Specter. I don't know if they would have shown up anyway to vote for Torsella or Shapiro, whoever else was going to run. But did they look at that record and say, you know what? He's a good guy, but he's not a Democrat. I don't believe he's a Democrat, and that why don't we just get the real thing?
Well, and to your point, unions are obviously, I think, still going to mobilize against him. He said in his statement that he's, despite his party switch, not switching his opposition to the Employee Free Choice Act. So you're right, there might still be an ideological fight, but look, I think, as you mentioned...
But he has $6 million.
He's got $6 million, and I think Rendell's decision to give Torsella just $500 was probably pretty smart on his part. And I'm not going to give too much credit to Rendell, but I think he probably saw something like this coming down the lines, the possibility that there could be either a much stronger Democrat getting in, or maybe Arlen Specter.
Arlen Specter going either as an independent or Dem. All right, the intrigue continues. There are still going to be many, many questions, including... Is he going to caucus with these folks? What other votes are off the table for him?
Well, he will, right? I mean, he is now a
yeah,
Democrat.
That's true, but will there be other votes that are off the table besides just EFCA, where he's... You know, he's not going to necessarily be the 60th vote on every issue. And then, more important, when is Al Franken going to get here? You don't have 60 till Al Franken shows up, and right now it looks like that's not going to be till like June or July.
Yet another story that sort of the tagline is puts more pressure on Minnesota. You know, it was like the Scott Murphy thing, puts more pressure on Minnesota.
Coleman's still not giving up. All right.
Coleman's still not giving up.
Well, that's all we have for today, although we'll be updating this story throughout the day, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it tomorrow. And till then, I'm Amy Walter.
We love a good party switch. Either way.
Oh, good point.
So bring them on.